Hey everyone, welcome back. We have another digital audio player review. So this one is the HiDizZ? I think it's HiDizZ. The HiDizZ AP80 Pro Max. This is their latest digital audio player. This one was originally on Kickstarter, I think towards the end of 2025. And then just in the past few months it has been more widely available on their own website, on AliExpress and all those, and Amazon and all those retailers, or e-tailers. So let's get right into it. So the HiDizZ AP80 Pro Max. This is a non-Android digital audio player. It goes for $239 US, although it's been perpetually on sale since it released at about $190 US. And I suspect it's going to stay at 190 in the foreseeable future, despite an MSRP of 230, or rather 240. It has two headphone outputs. It's got a 3.5 millimeter, which can do 70 milliwatts, and a 4.4 millimeter balanced that can do 190 milliwatts per channel. It has Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz only. It has Bluetooth 5.1, and you get all the basic Bluetooth codecs there: SBC, AAC, aptX, LDAC, and then HiBy's own UAT Bluetooth codec. This does support some music streaming services, Qobuz and Tidal. Streaming only, no offline playback, no downloads, nothing like that, so you need a constant internet connection for that. And it's a very basic support for that. It's got two ESS ES9219C DACs in it, and it uses Ingenix X1600E chipset, which we see in a lot of these HiBy OS DAPs, as well as Shanling's non-Android audio players. It has no internal storage, so you need a micro SD card, and it can support up to 2 terabytes for micro SD. It's got a 1300 milliamp battery for up to 12 hours of playback, a nice 2.95 inch IPS touchscreen, and it weighs about 81 grams, which is, it's made of aluminum. It feels fairly dense, but 81 grams is pretty light, and this does feel pretty light. So before we go any further, let's look at what we get in the box. So we have the box, we get a manual, we get this kind of postcard thing. So HiDizZ did a collaboration with Linsol for this DAP, and as you can see on the back of it, there's a Linsol marking, and then also on the box here. It's purely a cosmetic thing, so there's a non-Linsol collaboration version you can get, and there's no difference other than just on the back of it. You get a screen protector, and you get a silicone case. It is a very basic silicone case, and I don't like it because it looks ugly. It does its job if you want some basic protection. But as you see, I don't think this color looks good. But, you know, protection. And you get two USB cables. This is a USB-C to USB-A, probably intended to be used for charging, and a USB-C to USB-C cable, which is probably intended to be used if you're going to use this as a USB-DAC. So let's look at what this thing looks like. So the AP80 Pro Max, it's an all aluminum build. And so the entire outside here is aluminum. It feels actually pretty nice. It's actually engineered pretty well. It looks sharp, but it's not actually sharp in your hand. It sort of has these like kind of smoother, soft edges to it. It has a volume wheel here, which is also a button for power and for the screen. And then you also have playback buttons here on the right side. So previous, forward, and play pause, as well as a LED light here. This shows like the sample rate, so if you change the sample rate, the color will change. Also indicates charging. On the other side is a micro SD card slot, and I already have a card in here. Nothing on the top, and then on the very bottom, USB-C, and then the 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter outputs. Again, the back, it's a glass back with a pre-applied screen protector on it, and this is the only indication you would know if this was the collaboration version with Linsol. The front also has a pre-applied screen protector. Now these I think are plastic. I already have a few scratches or dings in the screen protector, but at least it's better than nothing, in my opinion. And one thing I do appreciate too is the headphone outputs are on the bottom, so that if you have your IEMs or headphones connected, the cable goes down and then it goes, you know, up to your ears, and you don't have to, like, you know, hunch it over the top if it's on the top. I prefer this way when companies do this. The volume wheel, it feels nice to use. It kind of does have a little bit of play, and if you're doing it really fast, it has a kind of grainy resistance to it, but overall it's nice, and it's generally pretty accurate. It does like one step at a time, up or down, for the volume. The buttons themselves are also nice. They're nice and clicky. I don't accidentally activate these buttons. They have enough resistance to them where I'm not like picking this up and accidentally playing a song or changing the track, that kind of thing. So they did a really good job, I think, with the actual design of this. It's very portable and very comfortable to hold in your hand. Well, I guess let's power it on and check out HiBy OS. And you know what? We're just going to zoom in here, make it a little bit easier to see. It's the best angle here, probably like this. So this runs HiBy OS. It's sort of a slightly customized version, I think, because they have a custom theme going on that I haven't seen on other HiBy OS audio players. And well, and as you see the screen, you know, it's a pretty decently sized screen, almost 3 inches, and the resolution is 360 by 640, so it's got a decent resolution for this size. Overall, like, pretty good layout. I do like this darker color scheme to it, so like kind of like a dark mode. I like dark mode on these devices. So if you have used HiBy OS, this is going to seem pretty familiar. If you haven't used HiBy OS, this is what it looks like. You have a main screen with your basic options on here, and if you pull down from the top, you have like a quick access bar where you can change the brightness, as well as have some options. And if you plug headphones into this, then you'll have various more options come up here, like the gain setting, for example. So I can activate Wi-Fi from here if I want to. And it's also playback controls, so that if you're playing a song, you can access it from here. If we go into the music section, you can view all the tracks, files, so connected USB storage or the SD card, you can check it out on here. Albums, so this will view all the albums, and it does show you the album art for all of them, but it doesn't cache it, so it's going to load it every single time you go in here. And look at that, it just rebooted. We're going to get into that in a little bit here. Well, you know what, let's talk about it right now. So HiBy OS is pretty notorious for being sometimes unstable or unusable. Most notably, the HiBy R3 Pro 2 has gotten a lot of flack for being kind of a laggy device and sometimes rebooting. People have complained about the HiBy R1 rebooting. While this has been no different in this way, it has been better. So I guess a little bit different. This is ironically the most stable HiBy OS DAP I've used, especially on the previous firmware version, 1.1. So this is running the latest one, 1.2, but the previous one was pretty rock solid stable for me. That reboot you just saw is actually a rare occurrence on this device compared to other HiBy OS DAPs, which is interesting. We were able to catch it on camera like this. So artists, we go into artists here. You can see, you can scroll. It's pretty nice, fairly smooth. I mean, for a sub $200 DAP, it's not too bad. And when you scroll, you can even use the letters on the right side to go quickly through them. In the HiBy OS interface here, you can slide from the left side to go back, and if you slide from the right, you go to the now playing screen. If you go into an artist, it'll show you all the albums of an artist, but it's alphabetical, and there's no sorting options for release year. If I hit this button on the top right, it shows all the songs in alphabetical order for that artist. And then we have a genres option, and then we have an album artist option. So if you're like me and you meticulously tag your music using something like MusicBrainz Picard, so you'll have your album artist, which is the artist of that album that the songs are on, and then the artist which could have a featured artist in it. Now, I like to take it that way, but in HiBy OS, if you go under artist, it'll show up like the featured artists broken out here, and then you have the album artist here, and you're thinking, well, that sounds great. But if you go into one of these artists in the album artist section, it does not break up the songs by album. Well, it does actually. It breaks it all up by album, but it lists all the songs grouped by album instead of showing the albums and then the songs, which is the biggest drawback of HiBy OS in my opinion. So it's not just related to this DAP, it's actually all HiBy OS DAPs operate like this if they have the album artist section here. So for HiBy OS players, I usually just have to copy the album artist tag onto the artist tag, and then everything, as you see, is sorted properly, and I don't have to deal with that, and I can go into an artist, go into the album, and everything looks like it usually does. If you're like me and you like to play music in that way, maybe you have a different listening workflow, but this is how I generally listen to music. I go and I pick an artist. I want to listen to some, Hertz here. Well, let's listen to volume 1, go into a song. Yeah, that's usually what I like to do. Or I like to listen to just the whole album. The screen, as you can see, is actually quite nice with the resolution being that high. And despite being a higher resolution, there's no lag to it. And it's actually quite good to look at. Yeah, you can probably see. Let's go into one of my playlists here. So there's also this star here, which is a playlist section. So you can go into playlists and you can load them as an M3U file. You can load from the SD card, or you can create a new playlist on here, or you already have them imported. Here they are. Now they are sorted by last date modified, I believe. So you can't manually sort it, and you can't manually group it into folders. So we'll just go look at some album art here of various songs. I think it looks pretty, the colors are pretty punchy. They have the saturation's pretty good, so you can see the contrast between some of these colors, like the red and the white, and some of these background colors here. It's not washed out. It looks actually pretty nice, and if you're like me and you like to look at album art when you're playing a song, this is going to make you happy. On the now playing screen here, you have your playback controls. You can tap the screen, and if you have the lyric file, it'll show lyrics here. And here on the bottom left is where you control the play mode. So I have it set to shuffle right now. And on the bottom right, these 3 dots, they give you a bunch of options like going to the equalizer, or adding to a playlist, or looking at the properties. So you can see the genre and the bit rate and the sampling rate and everything of the file, even the location on the micro SD card. And if you want to go back from this screen to the main screen, you just swipe from the left. These gestures are not intuitive, and they don't, HiBy and HiDIZS and all these companies that license HiBy OS for their DAPs, they don't usually tell you these things, so I think it's worth noting. And the gear icon here just gives you, access to various options here. Like you have MSEB, which is a HiBy OS thing, and even in actually the HiBy Music app for Android has this, and just gives you some nice options to change the sound if you don't want to mess with EQ. There's also, of course, a regular equalizer. And of course, this does have parametric EQ. And this was one of the first HiBy OS DAPs to actually get parametric EQ. It was one of the selling points for it on Kickstarter. Since then, HiBy has been introducing this into their other digital audio players, the HiBy OS ones, but this one got it first, and from what I have done so far, it works quite well. Here's where you also update the database. And I don't know if it's just my unit or my SD card, but music scanning on this device is a little bit slow. So it takes about 6 or 7 minutes to do about 11,000 files, which is not insane or end of the world. But if you're always constantly changing out your music and you have a lot of files, and you, of course, on HiBy OS, it doesn't detect incremental changes. You have to rescan the whole thing. So that might be an issue for you. And then, of course, just various options in here. Gapless playback is supported because HiBy OS does support gapless playback, and it does work well. Replay gain, of course, I like to use replay gain, so that is on here too. Streaming media. So here is where you can access Tidal or Qobuz. So you have to be connected to Wi-Fi, of course. And if you go into Tidal, I don't have a Tidal subscription, but if you tap Tidal, generates a QR code, you have to scan it with your phone, and then you can log in, or you just go to that web link. And for Qobuz, it gives you a username, password you have to put in, then you log in, and then you have a basic interface of like the new albums and playlists. And then if you hit the star, you get to access your own collection. And sometimes that happens. Amazing, right? We're getting all of the issues out of the way. Let's go back into it. Maybe it'll load. So it loads the new stuff, but it does not load my stuff. Interesting. There we go. So as you can see, I would not use this as a like Qobuz or Tidal first device. It's more of an afterthought. If you kind of want to, listen to that one new album you haven't bought yet or something, and you want to go on here and play it, then sure. It does reasonably work. And you do get album art. So it's streaming this song now from Qobuz, my Qobuz account, in 1644.1. I would not use this as a Qobuz or Tidal device though. There has been long-standing issues of like 50 plus, if you have a playlist of 50 plus tracks, it has an issue loading all those tracks. So if you want to shuffle them all, it won't shuffle all 50. So just be aware of those kind of things. You can listen to custom radio stations via a text file you put on the SD card. Wireless, so Bluetooth, obviously, Wi-Fi, HiBy Link support. You can import music via Wi-Fi, so it gives you a web address to go to. DLNA and AirPlay. Now, AirPlay is broken for me on the current firmware, version 1.2. So if I try to play to it, it's like stuttery, it sounds awful. On the previous version, 1.1, it was fine. So I don't know, again, this is the HiBy OS experience. You go outside the core music playing functionality and you tend to run into issues like this. And unfortunately, because this is not a HiBy DAP, the fixes are a little bit slower to get rolled out. You can read books via text files, if you so desire on this screen. And then, of course, here's the system settings. So just all your basic options that you would get in HiBy OS. Brightness controls, backlight time. You can change the theme color if you want. And as you can see, this is running 1.2. So let's look at Bluetooth. So Bluetooth performance on this is actually pretty good. And I'm saying it in a surprised way because on HiBy DAPs, sometimes there's issues, especially if you want to do LDAC at 990 kilobits per second. But on here, actually, I've had a really great experience with Bluetooth on here. So you can go in here and change the codec. As you can see, LDAC audio quality is the 990 kilobit quality, the highest you can get for LDAC. LDAC standard is 660 kilobits per second. And then prefer LDAC connection, which is the auto version. We'll connect to your headphones or other device at the best available codec or best available bit rate that it can manage in the environment. And typically it'll start at 330 kilobits per second. So I'm actually going to bring up some data here. So I used a cont'd 5K to test the LDAC, or well, actually the Bluetooth performance, and through the web app you can actually see the bit rate, and you can see over time if there's any issues. So I had it paired to the AP80 Pro Max, and I had IAMs plugged into the cont'd 5K, so I could listen and hear any degradation or stuttering or anything like that. So the LDAC 990 kilobit per second mode was perfect. It was great. So I was about a meter away between the devices. Same goes for the 660 mode. As you can see, perfectly straight line, maintain that, and I didn't hear any stuttering or dropouts. And then when you set it to auto, it starts at roughly 330. And then it slowly starts to climb up, as you can see the staircase kind of graph going there. It eventually does get to 990. But it did take a few minutes to do that. So just be aware, if you have issues with LDAC, always start at auto, and then then select like standard quality, which is 660, and then do 990. Just because LDAC is prone to environmental interference and those kind of things. The aptX codec was great. You got 384 kilobits per second. Sounded great, and no issues there. And AAC topped out at 220 kilobits per second. So you can actually use this as a Bluetooth DAC as well. It has the bi-directional Bluetooth functionality, which is pretty cool because then you could just connect it to your laptop or your phone or something, using the Bluetooth connection, and then have your headphones or IAMs plugged into here and just transmit the audio that way. And of course, it does support being a dedicated USB DAC. Now you do have to know that if you're going to use it in USB DAC mode, there's not a dedicated USB chip on here. So there will be a little bit of a latency penalty there when you do that. So if you're going to watch movies or play video games, probably not the best option as a USB DAC for that. But generally, the YouTube videos or podcasts or just listening to music is fine. Oh, and the other thing that I know people are generally concerned about is how these perform with AirPods. So I tested my AirPods 4, the ANC version, and it worked perfectly fine. I was able to hear audio perfectly, and even the controls worked. If you tapped it, it would play and pause. You don't get next and back, next track, previous track functionality, but at least you can play pause. And things like in-ear detection kind of are hit and miss sometimes, but they do work, and it's just nice to see that. The battery. So HiDIZS rates this for 12 hours of playback, and you're not going to get 12 hours of playback on this thing. On the 3.5 millimeter output, I was getting about 10 and a half hours usually. If you go to the 4.4 millimeter, you're going to probably be in the 8 to 9 hour range. And it's just a limitation of the size of this thing. It has a 1300 milliamp battery, so it's not that big. But considering the size and considering what you can drive with this, I think battery performance is just okay. Not phenomenal, just okay. The one issue I have is standby performance. My standby performance on this is terrible. It's supposed to get 60 days, which is 2 months, but I can maybe go 2 weeks with this on, without Bluetooth on, without Wi-Fi on, and it'll die in that 2 weeks. So I don't know if that's just my unit or if that's just a lack of optimization. Maybe something broke in one of the updates, but that has been my experience with it. Let's talk about the output power. So the 3.5 millimeter can do 70 milliwatts per channel, and the 4.4 millimeter balanced output can do 190 milliwatts per channel. That is not a lot, but if you think of it in the context of other digital audio players, but if you think of it as a portable device that you're going to mainly be using IEMs with, it is more than enough. I had no issues with any of the IEMs that I tried, and even some over-ear headphones, even some like the Focal Azuris HiFi Edition XV, they were driven fine. The only time I had issues was when I moved up to like the HiFi Sandara or my Sennheiser HD660 S2s. This could drive them, but the volume was getting up there, and it kind of, I wasn't getting the same dynamic response that I'm used to on like a dedicated desktop DAC amp. So it just doesn't have the output power for some of those harder to drive headphones. But for IEMs and some, fairly efficient over-ear headphones, this will be perfectly fine. The other thing too is this has a fairly low noise floor, so you're not going to get a lot of background hiss. If you do use something very sensitive, like say the Campfire Audio Andromeda 10, I tried it with this, and there was a little bit of perceptible background hiss, just enough that it was annoying while I was listening to tracks. And I would not recommend using very sensitive IEMs with this, but if you use something like the Cranier Reference, which I just got, my order finally shipped, yay, and came in. It's been working fine with this, no background hiss there. Or the Zygat Horizon, which is one of my favorite IEMs, sounds great with this. The SimGot EA1000, another one of my favorite IEMs, also sounds great with this, no background hiss. So for IEMs, this is actually a very competent DAP. Well, that brings us, I guess, to the sound quality section. And as I said before, this has 2 DACs. There are 2 ESS ES9219C DACs. So if that does mean something to you, then great. If it doesn't, then you have nothing to worry about, because this sounds great. It has a nice, clean output to it. And it doesn't offer any coloration, so it's not going to change the frequency response of what you're connecting to it. I know a lot of people really like to nitpick the sound of DACs and DAPs and everything. A DAC does not dictate the sound of an audio device. There is additional ways that companies can tune things, so you can't just judge it by the DAC that it's using. The only time I would ever judge a device by the DAC it's using is if it's going to use one of the Cirrus Logic, like the CS4313 series that have the Cirrus hump with a dynamic range enhancement option. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then it doesn't matter to you. Otherwise, this is really, really competent. It sounds great. If you really want to get into the picky details and my own subjective impressions of what this sounds like, to me this sounds like a slightly warm, neutral type of sound. It is very clean and is mildly energetic. So to me, what that means is the bass is sort of tight and controlled, but still present. The mid-range is clear and natural, and it doesn't sound thin. And the treble is detailed and airy with a little bit of energy. But again, that is my subjective impressions of the sound. Objectively, this sounds very clean, and it sounds loud, and it'll get loud enough to power pretty much any IEM you use with it. So you should not be splitting hairs when comparing digital audio players in this price range on the sound like that. I guess that kind of does sum it up. So who is this digital audio player for? This is for someone who wants a generally offline music experience and a music first experience, and someone who wants something that's very small, portable, travel friendly. It's aluminum, so it's going to be able to stand being put in a bag or a pouch or something if you're moving around, which I did. Hence there's a little bit, I don't know if you can see, but there are some little scratches and indents on the screen protector. It is generally reliable, except for the, well, sometimes random reboots. But to be fair, this has been the most stable HiBy OS digital audio player that I have used so far. It supports gapless playback, which I think is a big thing nowadays because so many devices are coming out that don't support it, and for me personally that ruins the experience on albums that I want that type of experience on, and that are intended to be played that way. And if you want to do very mild Qobuz or Tidal playback, you can also, this is also a great option for that. The price of $190 I think is pretty reasonable, so it's just under $200. And if we're going to talk about other DAPs in the $200 range that are not HiBy OS DAPs, this Shanling M1 Plus is an option. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, all aluminum, also has a volume wheel. Has the best non-Android operating system, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's perfect, I'm just saying it's the best non-Android operating system on a DAP so far. So, Shanling M1 Plus. If you want something that's like a similar size to this, there is the Tempotech Variations V1. This is a HiBy OS DAP and is also very small. And it has a much smaller screen, about half the size. And it's kind of annoying to use sometimes, this screen, but you know, if you have small fingers and you can do it, then it's great. This is under $100, so again, it sounds good for what it is, and has decent output power, and it has physical playback buttons. Kind of everything you would want, except the outputs are at the top, not the bottom, which kind of sucks for me. But that is an option. Kind of another option, if you want a similar size, is this. This is the Sony NWA306. It's an Android digital audio player. It's Sony's cheapest one. Released a few years ago, has been upgraded through I think 2 Android versions. Still pretty good, pretty decent. Battery life is ridiculously good for a Android device, and the only thing that really sucks with Sony's digital audio players is that outside of Japan, they are generally volume capped. So the output power sucks. So, but if you import from Japan like I did, you can get, this goes for their entire lineup, by the way. You can get a pretty decent Android DAP out of it. And as you can see, the size is pretty small, so it's a bit thinner, but it's a bit taller and a bit wider. But it's all aluminum. So that is an option for you. Otherwise, I think the HIDIZS AP80 Pro Max is a very competent digital audio player, as I just go ahead and drop it, of course. They did a decent job, I think, with HiBy OS, and I think they are responsive. If you go on their Discord, they're actually listening to people's complaints about the issues they have. So there's at least that aspect, although they're still dependent on HiBy for the OS, for patches and whatnot. I would recommend this to anyone who's sort of getting into digital audio players, because I think this gives you a better experience than the HiBy R1 and the HiBy R3 Pro 2. It certainly has been more stable than either of those for me, and it is certainly much less laggy, and the Bluetooth is more performant than those other two digital audio players. So I think that about wraps it up. Let me know what you guys think of this DAP, and what you'd like to see next from them, and what you'd like to see next from me. There will be some affiliate links in the description below. It does not mean that I endorse you to buy this, and you do not even have to use those links if you don't want, but it does help me to get these devices. I guess, full disclosure, I bought this myself during the Kickstarter. This was not sent to me for review, so I purchased it myself because when I get enough money from the affiliate links, I do use it to buy devices like this to review. So yeah, that about wraps it up. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.